Regional connectivity in Europe faces a number of challenges. For example, there's a lot of air traffic congestion in Europe, so anything that could be done to bring us the long-awaited single European sky to help ease some of that congestion would be very useful. There are also some constraints around supply of new aircraft for airlines, so they're facing some restraints on their growth ambitions as a result of those supply chain challenges. In terms of sustainability, we do have incremental improvements in aircraft efficiency, so we're seeing intensity in terms of CO2 per available seat kilometre gradually reduce over time. However, the overall growth of the fleet is outstripping those improvements in efficiency, so we see overall CO2 emissions increasing. And the only realistic way to address that in the medium term is by ramping up supply of sustainable aviation fuel. In general, we're seeing a trend towards densification, use of larger single-aisle aircraft, for example, A321 neo with something like 240 seats in some cases. There have been some delays with Boeing's 737 MAX program for the largest version, the 737-10, which Ryanair is purchasing. It doesn't now expect to have those aircraft in service much before the summer peak in 2027. The other trends we're seeing are deployment of single-aisle aircraft for longer range routes. So the IAG carriers, Aer Lingus, Iberia are now really adding to their long-haul networks, operating transatlantic flights with these single-aisle aircraft. And that aircraft, the A321XLR, could really open up some new markets in Europe, particularly for long-haul flights from secondary airports. It's really important that airports and airlines collaborate to try to address efficiency and sustainability in the industry. I highlighted in my keynote presentation this morning at the event that some airports, such as Sofia Airport, have actually managed to achieve what we call absolute decoupling. So in 2025, they managed to reduce the total CO2 emissions for flights from the airport, but they still increased the number of flights and the capacity. And that was really driven by the airlines that serve that airport adopting more latest generation technology aircraft. So really steeply increasing use of 737 MAX, A321 neos. Unfortunately, that's an exception really. Most airports we saw last year did see an overall increase in CO2 emissions. So that's really where the need for sustainable aviation fuel comes in. But there are also challenges around supply. We've seen a lack of investment in supply of SAF, really, despite the fact that by 2030 in Europe, it will be required by law that 6% of the fuel is sustainable aviation fuel. We're working with a lot of airlines and airports to help them understand their opportunities for route development. So that's everything from understanding the demographics and the economics around the origination points for these flights, but it's also important to understand the full market context. So which competitive airlines are already operating on routes or similar city pairs, to really understand the type of capacity that's already in the market and the product offerings in terms of premium cabins, for example, to ensure that when adding new routes, airlines are able to give themselves the best possible chance of those being successful. I think maybe looking at the further end of that horizon of 5 to 10 years, there are a lot of projects going on to try to bring us new propulsion technologies, hybrid technologies, hydrogen, battery-powered aircraft, etc. These are really going to start off at the very lower end of the market in terms of the size of the aircraft and the distances that can be flown with these aircraft. But if we can make progress with that, there could be new markets that open up for feeder flights. Some of that won't really be replacing existing flights, it'll be replacing surface transport. But I think there's a big opportunity there for regional airports to really be at the forefront of that. Perhaps 10 years is a little bit optimistic, maybe 10 to 15 years we'll start to see the impact of those new technologies coming in.